Hello, welcome to my channel, A Book Forest. My name is Kim, and today I'm going to do a review of She Who Knows by Nnedi Okorafor. So this was published August 20th of this year in 2024, and I got an ARC for it. It was my first ARC ever, so I was really happy to get it. It's something I was going to read no matter what because it's a prequel novella to the novel Who Fears Death. So Who Fears Death I've read a couple of years ago, and I've very much enjoyed it. It was my book of the year for that year, I think 2022. And it's set in an alternate history, West Africa. I think this mostly dystopian, post-apocalyptic. They're very mysterious what happened before. Like, we don't really have a lot of details about it. What we know about this world is that at some point the Okeke tribe was very technologically advanced. They were experimenting a lot with technology, and some kind of apocalypse happened, some kind of cataclysmic event. And from that, the Okeke tribe were sort of accepting bad treatment. Like they thought that they deserved the treatment that they are getting. So it's not really explained a lot in this book, but a bit more in Who Fears Death. What happens is the Okeke tribe is the dominant tribe in the Western African landscape until the Nuru arrives. And the Nuru are they are said to come from basically being aliens. Probably not, but that's the legends. And the Nuru are now enslaving the Okeke, or exterminating them. So, and the Okeke think that they deserve it because of this cataclysm that happened in the past. So it's all very, very complex and interesting. And our girl here in this book, She Who Knows, is the mother of the main character of Who Fears Death. So she is a young girl. It's a coming of age story, and she is part of a different, of the Osunu, who are Okeke, but separate from them. They are not enslaved because they decided to worship a goddess, and that's also very mysterious. But they decided to worship, to enslave themselves to something else, basically to a worship, and they are set apart from their bigger tribe of the Okeke. Like, they are not well regarded at all by their own people. So they are living separately in separate villages in the desert, and they are doing their own thing. And our girl Najiba in She Who Knows is basically, she's supposed to be probably going study in the library to start learning to read and study and history and all sorts of subjects. That's what girls do in their village. But she is called upon to go on the salt road. So the men in her family are all part of they're all going every year. They're called, that they hear a calling from the ether, and they go on the salt road. Basically, they go to a salt lake, or dried up lake with lots of salt, and they just dig up some salt and sell it in the markets, and that's their vocation. And girls don't do that in this world, but she does. Like, she's called upon to do it, and her father says, yeah, you can come. And from there, adventure starts. So I'm not gonna say too much more about the plot, because it is a novella. So if I do, it will ruin a bit of the plot. Mostly, it has a lot of the same themes as Who Fears Death. It has, like, coming of age, being a bit of an outsider in your own world. It has a lot of violent themes as well. Like, it's not a very safe world that Najiba lives in. And it's also about resilience and learning who you are and what you're supposed to be doing and your sort of destiny, and getting into your own power, and also like femininity and what it's all about. So it's really interesting, very delicately. It's not punching you in the face with the themes. It's very delicate, very subtle. I like that. Also, it has a lot of relatable quotes. Like, for example, Najiba goes on her first trip to the salt lake. The salt, it's very, very nice, evocative place. Like, it has lots of different types of salt, and if you have a talent, you can dig up like nice, beautiful blocks of salt that are almost works of art and sell them. So she goes through a lot of self-discovery in this first trip, and a lot of actualization, I would say. And then she comes back home, and everyone is treating her the same as when before she left. Like, she feels a bit disconcerted by this, because like the quote says, to grow so much and then to contract, to step onto your path even when you didn't quite know it was a path, and then to suddenly shrink yourself. It hurt. So I don't know, everyone who's been on an adventure, a trip, or has done something a bit like out of the ordinary, or something, like you've done something out of your comfort zone, and you come back and you feel a bit different, and then you come back and everyone else that knows you treats you like you were before, and you feel different, but you're also the same person. So it's very, very interesting and relatable. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed Najiba. She's a tall, stately young woman, very interesting, and she's like different but also very similar to all her other friends. And it also like talks about relationships. She has trouble relating to her family and her friends, and it's very interesting. It also, like, those themes show up in Who Fears Death. It's about being a bit like awkward and having trouble connecting even if you love people. So very interesting. And Najiba is a bit like her in Who Fears Death, the main character, Onye Sunwoo. She's a spark plug. Like, she's really she's always angry a bit, and she has a short fuse, and I like that. I relate to that. Like, but Najiba is a bit more subtle, a bit more laid back, even if she is quite strong. But yeah, they're different characters, so I like that. It's not like a carbon copy of each other. And we get to in this book, in Who Fears Death, there's like one passage, like a couple of pages really, and you read that, and then you read this, and it's in those couple of pages you have this, but it's way more explained in this. So I really like that. Like, it's like the author wrote a book, and she had like a couple of pages of a backstory for a character, and she wanted to expand on that. So it shows love for the character, and that's the best reason to write a book. Yeah, so really amazing. So I recommend this series. Like, there's a few books, like one novel and a few novellas in this series. I've only read those two, but I am absolutely going to keep going with that series. And yeah, it's just different. It's fantasy, dystopian, but in different setting than you're used to, and usually, like, in fantasy, it's European mostly, and I enjoy that. But that was refreshing, and also very delicately handled. So, like, the culture of the author shows up, but not to the exclusion of the story or the characters. So it's really beautiful. So I gave this novella 4 stars, and I absolutely recommend reading it. You can read this before, like, you don't have to have read Who Fears Death to read She Who Knows. However, I would say it's, for my personal opinion, it's better to read this first, and then, because you get, the world is a bit more, like, it's a bigger book, so you get more of the world in this, and Also, Onye Sonwoo is a very, very important character in this world. So that's her story. And Najiba is her mother, and it's kind of nice to have read about her as an adult before you read She Who Knows. But if you want to just try the novella first to see if you like her Nnedi Okorafor's writing, yeah, then go ahead. It's fine. You will get spoiled a bit though for Who Fears Death. So just so you know, I would recommend. It's not that big, so I would recommend reading this and then She Who Knows. So let me know if you were interested in reading those books. If my review has convinced you to try to pick them up. Hopefully, I heard that there was gonna be maybe a series, a TV series about this, because George R. R. Martin was like a producer or something. So hopefully that sees the light of day. That I would watch that for sure. I'm not big into adaptations of fantasy, but for that one, I would make an exception. So, yeah, thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.